right, we are going to go ahead and begin. Thank you so much for being here in person, and thank you also to those who will be watching online. We know that the election is very soon, 9 days, right? That came quickly. So I'm glad you're here, that you're interested in what candidates have to say, that you are seeking to be informed voters. That's something that is often missing, especially as it relates to local elections, knowing who people are, what they stand for. So I appreciate you taking the time to be here. The event will go till about 8:15 is what this looks like. Each candidate will be asked a series of questions. They won't always be the same questions because we have a number of different races represented here. And so each of them are going to introduce themselves. They'll answer 5 questions, not in a row. It'll mix up. And then they'll have a closing statement. Throughout the forum, they are also able to jump in 4 times in response or to add on to something another candidate has said. And so we'll be tracking all of that. I will do my best to not repeat what happened on some TV debates by getting involved myself. I will not be involved except to make sure there is equal speaking opportunity to these candidates. I expect this to be fairly laid back as we get to know candidates. I don't expect any fights to break out on stage. Nothing along those lines is going to be happening here tonight or in the audience, right? I will let you know right now, if you start texting me questions you want me to ask them, it's not going to happen. However, you are welcome to talk to the candidates right after, and I'm sure they are happy to answer questions if you have questions. And so with that, we're going to start with just about 30-second introductions so you know who these individuals are briefly and what they're running for. And so we're not going to have a timer on the screen for this, but when we get a little bit down the road, we'll start introducing a timer. So I'm going to start with, well, if I say your name, then I've introduced you. And so we're going to start with the person to my left.
Hey everyone, my name is Paula McFeeters. I'm running for Pueblo County Commissioner. I'm a native of Pueblo, and I'm running really to represent Pueblo, not Denver, in the decisions made in Pueblo County. So that's really my motive in running, is to really represent the folks here in this community and really to do a good job for you all. So thank you all for coming and being engaged as people of faith. You matter too. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kayla Beauvais, and I'm running for district attorney. I am also a native of Pueblo. I was born and raised here, and I have three little ones who are 8, 5, and 3, and they're 6th-generation Puebloans. So I certainly have a huge significant interest in the safety of our community. I am currently at the DA's office. I've been there for a little over 12 years, and I'm the chief trial deputy. So I'm really looking forward to taking this next step so that I can try to implement the changes that need to be made within our community. I think being there has given me a unique opportunity to see what's working, what's not, and what we can do differently. So thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate that you all coming out for this.
Good evening. My name is Epi Grego. I'm chairman of the Board of County Commissioners. Right now I'm a county commissioner for District 1. I come from the doing power lines before I got in office. And we need to do something here in Pueblo, like I said, like Paula mentioned. We've got to take Denver politics and Washington politics out of our community. This is our people. This is the people that we represent, not Washington, and we have to stop that. Thank you, and thank you for all coming out.
I am Stephen Rodriguez. I am the Republican Party candidate for County Commissioner District 1. I'm a lifelong Pueblo resident that's given me the opportunity to see the challenges that we have as a community face. I am committed to serving with integrity, accountability, and transparency. And I thank you all for showing up. This is great. Thank you for everybody online that's showing up. God bless you.
All right, thank you guys for introducing yourselves. And so we're going to start, and I'm going to throw the first question to Paula. Paula, we're going to start with a hot topic, okay?
Oh, great.
Yes. In your campaign, you have been criticized by your opponent quite a bit for your connections to the faith community. How do you respond to those types of criticisms?
Well, I will say, as a believer in Christ and a follower of Christ my whole life, the one thing that I think is so misunderstood is that traditions of faith in our country have been here since the beginning of the foundations of our country. It's only in the last 20 years that the idea that being a person of faith is controversial. And so what I would say to folks that don't understand that is read our Constitution and understand that the First Amendment protects the rights of people who have faith. And that's really what I'm about. It's what I've lived my whole life, not just in the political realm, but also in my personal life, really just reflecting what that is in my community. And the idea that somehow that disqualifies you to run for office is really a strange development, and it's unfortunate because it's another kind of division that's been set up to keep people of faith out of being involved in your community. And I will gladly stand up against that and say, as I said in my introduction, you matter. We should be involved. We should know what's going on in our community. Not that we all have to agree on every issue, but we do have a right to have a seat at the table, and I'm happy to take the criticism and be compared to many other, I don't know how many have gotten the flyers and whatnot, but I laugh half the time when I get these because they're so ridiculous that we are entered that political realm in Pueblo, Colorado. I'm just a working mom that's wanting to do and make a difference in my community, and to be compared to some ridiculous figures in history just annoys me. But you know what? That's part of the game. And I can take the hits, Quinn. I'm ready for it. So thank you for the question.
And it shows some desperation on the other side, I think. So we're going to go on. Kayla, this question is for you. How would you describe your overall philosophy towards criminal justice? Do you see the role of the DA as primarily punitive or as an opportunity for rehabilitation?
So it's not just all punitive. We do have a program within the office that's called our diversion program. And so we do deal with people that are not just flat out criminals, right? People make mistakes, and we do have programs within our community and within the office to help those type of people be rehabilitated or to pay back their debt to the community for what they've done. Through our diversion program, it's for first-time offenders. They essentially signed a contract with our office where they go through certain classes that we ask them to do, pay restitution. If the victim wants an apology letter, that's something that we'll implement too, but certainly not force on the victim if that's not something they want. Community service, so we do that kind of stuff already. Punitive, yes, there is a role for, that is the district attorney's main role for our repeat offenders, right? We are to keep our community safe and to hold people accountable for their actions. And so yes, I do think that it's a dual role, but we can't just keep, people complain about the slap on the wrist, right? That's not what we need to keep doing if we're going to actually make a difference in our community. So I do think that it's both, and you have to, prosecutorial discretion is a huge thing for our attorneys, and we get, that is it's certainly a weight on the prosecutor's shoulders, but it's a huge thing for us to exercise when we're reviewing each case by case basis, the defendant that's in front of us, their criminal history, the crime they committed. So we take all of that into consideration when we're deciding if we're going to make an offer for a plea bargain or if it's a case that we're going to take to trial. And so I think that that's a really great thing that we do have, and that's why it's not always just punitive. It's not just always lock them up and throw away the key, because most people that do wind up in prison, they're out. They're back on the streets. And so we don't want to just have that revolving door. I do know that there's programs within prison for rehabilitation as well, and so we have to always hope that they're taking advantage of the programs that are available for them there. But at some point, it is the DA's role to take criminals off the streets if they're continually victimizing our community.
All right, thank you. And the next question, it's going to be predictable. We're going to go down the line to start, and then we'll start jumping around, okay? And I'll just remind you, if at any point you want to chime in and give a response to what another candidate says, you just need to raise your hand or raise your mic up so I know that you're interested. So the next question is for Epi. With rising housing costs across Colorado, what specific steps can you take to ensure affordable housing options in Pueblo without overburdening taxpayers?
Right now, with the housing that's going on in Pueblo, affordable housing, honestly, the way to do that is, I really don't know other than with legislation. I mean, if you look at the laws and everything they're doing, it has to do with legislation. And what I mean by that, it's like the taxes and everything goes up on everybody. So it's going to be hard, even for my children and grandchildren, to buy a home. So when the governor come up with that HH, and then they called it not HH, they had a special session, that killed everybody right now. And that goes with taxes and everything. They have House Bill 1061. Everybody's taxes went up. Mine's went up from $1,400 a year to almost $6,000 this year, and that caught me off guard. I thought they made a mistake, and that had to do with some of the legislation that one of the former commissioners was part of that. And I just think affordable housing, it's going to be kind of hard to do that right now unless we get, like I said, to a mill levy, but we really don't know what our budget's going to look like this year. Our budget's going to be kind of tight because with everything they've done, they just had another special session just coming up here recently, and that had to do with taxes again, and that's not good for our community because it's killing everybody. Everybody, even for instance, our Black Hills Energy. Black Hills Energy, that's hard for economic development to come here and for people to buy homes because the energy is so expensive, and we have to pay attention to that. But affordable housing, that's going to be a hard question for all of us to take care of, to see which way we're going to take this housing projects. Other than we have developments going on right here on 24th Street. That has to do with the city. We have some going on. We just did some with the Pura. Pura is trying to build affordable housing right there on the east side, some apartment houses. And it's going to be like two duplexes. And they're going around the east side trying to do that, but they're trying to do that all over the community. And that's the way they're trying to bring affordable housing into the communities right now.
All right, thank you. Next question for Steve. As discussions on gun control continue nationwide, how would you protect the Second Amendment rights of Pueblo residents while also promoting community safety?
34 counties have passed Second Amendment right legislation in their city. I am a big Second Amendment proponent. We have, Kayla and I served on a board together, the Adult Community Correction, and I could tell you when some of these polis passed things and the legislature passed laws in the past few years that have basically shackled legal gun owners and allowed criminals to be on the street. If they don't commit a crime with their gun, they're cool, they're all right. They don't count that against them. We need to protect our rights, period. And I would be a proponent of making this a Second Amendment sanctuary city where the legislature, I guarantee you, because it's dominated by a supermajority of Democrats, are going to push to try to take away your gun rights. And I, as an ex-commissioner, will fight, not only fight against it, but I will work with the other future commissioners to say, I don't want to see us spend 1 cent enforcing that law upon the citizens of Pueblo. We have a crime problem here. And to shackle hard-working American people to where you cannot defend yourself, I will not stand for it. I will not stand for it. You should be able to take care and provide for your family, protect your family. Go to the store right now on the east side. I live in the east side. If I go to the Family Dollar right now, I guarantee you there's probably 10, 20 people out there. It's dangerous. Go to the lower east side right now. The 7-Eleven there, the drug dealing going on, open drug use. There's probably 30 people out there right now. And if you go to that 7-Eleven and have no way to protect yourself, who's going to fight for you? I will fight for you and for your gun rights.
All right. So after round one, we're going to now start using a timer. Nobody did any specific violation. They were just working on the timer, okay? But the timer is ready, and so that'll be displayed on both screens, I'm assuming, or at least on the back screen so the candidates can see it. So we're going to go on to the next question. This one is for Kayla. Some DAs nationwide have adopted policies to avoid prosecuting certain low-level crimes. Where do you stand on this, and how do you believe it impacts community safety and law enforcement?
I'm against that. I'm against not prosecuting any of the crimes that are happening in our community. Because not only do we have to take care of our people who are victims of violent crimes, but look at our small businesses. I don't know if you've seen recently, but the Great Divide on 4th and Santa Fe, their windows have been broken out 3 times in the past, I think, month. They got them replaced, and the very next day they were busted out again. When people decide if they want to come to our community, they're looking at our schools and they're looking at our crime rates. And if we're just deciding to let the smaller crimes go, that's not going to people are not going to want to come to our community. We as everyday citizens are not going to want to be out and about if others believe that it's okay to commit the low-level shopliftings or these window break-ins. And when I say low level, what I mean is that the legislation has made those low level. So the impact can be huge on a small business owner. I had one small business owner reach out to me and say that he had been having to budget at least $2,000 a month to replace their windows that were getting repeatedly broken into. So for that, because of what legislation has done, because of that value, say it is under $2,000, that's a misdemeanor. But for them, having to find that extra $2,000 a month to replace that repeatedly, that's a huge deal. And so I am against that. Right now, we have the First Appearance Center at the courthouse, which takes care of traffic offenses and some of the lower level theft. Then we have county court, which handles our misdemeanors, and then we have district court that handles the felonies. We are very short at the DA's office on attorneys, and we have 3 more that are leaving within the next 2 months. But we have found a way, and we will continue to find a way to prosecute the crimes that come into our office, because we can't let even the smallest violation go by, because then it just tells the next offender that, hey, I can do that. They're just going to let that one go, and that's not something I stand for.
Thank you. And I was informed by our tech team, if you're watching on Facebook and are having audio problems, go to YouTube for now. They're working on it. All right. Good answer. Epi, you want to chime in? Go for it.
Yes, I want to feed off of Kayla. As a Bukovic Motors, everybody's got to change their lifestyle for all these laws that legislation's passed, and that's not right. As a Bukovic Motor, they were trying to do something with the planning and zoning. They were going to let them do it. And I told them, well, you know what? These people, they break into their trailers and they steal their pipe. They steal the cords for copper. And we helped them. They wanted to put up a fence, and they told them no. So we helped, work through planning and zoning, and said, no, we're going to change this because all of us have to change our lifestyle for them. And that costs us. His insurance rates were going up so high, just like Kayla just mentioned, the $2,000 windows, you could only hit your insurance so much, and then they're going to drop you, and that's not right. And we have to pay attention to legislation to the people we send up there. And right now, we have to really watch these legislators we're sending up there. Because like I said, this Bukovic Motor, he has trailers that are worth like $100,000, $200,000, $50,000, $20,000. And let me tell you, that costs him a lot of money. And we have to put a stop to that here in our community. And as county commissioners, me and Commissioner Swearingen, we worked hard to make that happen, and we helped Mr. Zabukovic and the rest of the community. We're telling them, you know what, we have to change our lifestyles for these people, and they don't even want to own up to the laws that they've passed, and that's wrong.
All right.
Thank you.
You want to go for it?
May I? I just want to highlight how important it is to know what you're voting for when you vote for a legislator. They make the laws that we live by up in Denver, okay? So when you're voting for your legislators, be mindful, they make the laws. Your county has to enforce the law. We don't get to change the law. The DA doesn't get to change the law. As a county commissioner, we have to enforce the laws that are there. And what we've just had a discussion about is the laws that were passed in 2019, 2020, 2021, many of them promoted by my opponent, Danae Escar. She was the Speaker of the House, and she promoted all of these decriminalization bills, and now we're living with those. So I want to encourage you all to be educated about when you're voting and looking at who's going to represent you as legislators. They make the law that you have to live with, that we have to abide by. Kayla cannot prosecute laws that are not there. And I just want to make sure people understand that. My opponent is running to be your next county commissioner, and she's responsible for every law we just talked about. The only way we can change those laws is to get our legislators to change them. And that's what I will be pushing if I am elected.
All right. And the next question actually comes back to you, Paula. Colorado is transitioning towards renewable energy. How would you support this shift while also considering the economic impact and local jobs here in Pueblo?
That's a great question to answer in a short amount of time. We are now facing the closure of Comanche 3. That's another great piece of legislation that your legislators put upon us to be completely green energy by 2040. So they rolled back our ability to use natural gas, coal, and any other energy, and we must be compliant with that by 2040. What that means to you, though, we're going to lose a lot of tax revenue out of Comanche 3, about $24 million coming to the county that then goes to services that provide for you. So it's not an option to find something to replace that energy, okay? Many folks are really, pushing wind and solar, and those are great energy alternatives. However, they don't meet enough of the need to provide energy to Excel that is sold down the grid. What we're looking at really is looking at how do we shift from the energy that we've had to energy that will not only produce enough supply of energy, but revenue to the county. And the PISAC report has come out. It's kind of controversial. Some people like it, some people don't. But the number one source of energy that has come about, and you're seeing it across our country right now, is the reopening of discussion about nuclear energy. And it is something we have to look at. Small modular nuclear is not 3 Mile Island size. It's really small modular nuclear. It's in a smaller footprint. It produces a lot of energy. And let me tell you something about it that a lot of people aren't thinking about. It's an economic driver. You've got data centers opening up across our country. They need a lot of energy. At a time when we're reducing what we're producing, we've got a high need for energy, electric cars, yada, yada. So what does Pueblo do? Well, as a county commissioner, my job is to explore it. I don't get to make the decision. The Public Utilities Commission gets to make that decision. But you should be informed about it. I don't want to push on anybody what that energy solution should be, but the facts are, if we don't have a high energy producer to backfill the coal and natural gas being taken out, we aren't going to survive on our tax base that we've got. We need to replace $24 million. So my job as a county commissioner is to make sure you understand, if that revenue doesn't come in, we're going to have to cut our budget a lot. And I don't really want to have to do that. I want to grow Pueblo as much as we can.
Can I?
You want to go for it? Yep.
Yes. And Paul is right, because right now we're working on, there's a lot of solar plants that come to Pueblo, and they take up all this acreage. And let me tell you, do they bring jobs? Yes, they bring jobs. They're not good paying jobs. I helped build Comanche plant. I helped build that new substation they have out there. I've helped do all the transmission lines around Pueblo from here to the fountain. And let me tell you, them are good paying jobs. Solar plants, they just come the other day. In 30 years, let's say it takes 24 to decommission them, you're going to make $24 million, $1 million a year compared to making $90 to $30 million a year if you have a power plant. We really have to pay attention to that. Because I'm not against solar, I'm not against wind, if they want to put them on their homes, but it just takes up way too much energy, and that's not a good thing for us right now. With the governor coming up with all these EV vehicles and everything, right now they have programs where people get to have their little charging station, they get free charging. I mean, that's not right. You know, they have to pay for it just like we do. I have to pay for gas and diesel for my vehicles. So we have to stop this. The governor and them come up with all these great ideas, and to me, they're all hogwash. We just have to watch what pay attention to what they're doing. They're not doing good for us and our community.
All right, Stephen?
It takes 1,000 acres of solar to duplicate the energy that one nuclear facility can put out. It doesn't depend on the weather. Not only that, we have hundreds of jobs we're going to lose. So the opportunity to look at this, it will not only save the hundreds of jobs, but in creating construction jobs, good paying construction jobs. I would also encourage you to contact the PUC. Send them letters. Go to meetings, because they want to raise our rates. And we can stop that by contacting them and letting them know that, hey, we're with this inflation, high food costs, everything rising, the high gas, we're at the end of our ability to continue to pay. They need to do a cost-benefit analysis to see why are they trying to raise our rates? Is it just for profit?
All right.
Can I go out on that one too?
Yeah, if you want to use another one, you're fine.
So what Stephen's talking about is, for instance, that the 29th of this month, they're having a big meeting for Black Hills with the PUC here, and they're going to be here. We needed people to show up to that meeting. Because let me tell you, this has nothing to do with the employees of Black Hills, because they're my brothers and sisters. That's the world I come from. They are very good employees there, but we got to pay attention. These people make money off of all this, and what I mean by that, they have shareholders and everything. That's not good for our community. Our rates are so high. My rates were coming up to $500 a month this summer, and I'd really love for everybody to show up the 29th of this month for that Black Hills meeting. And everybody, your voice counts there, believe me, and they will listen to us if we all show up.
All right, this next question going to Stephen for 2 minutes. How would you address the challenge of homelessness in a way that balances compassion with accountability?
I've had 20 years of serving as a youth pastor and pastor. I've been to numerous homeless camps. I used to be really hardcore and say, let's just raise the camps and get everybody out of here. But in talking to people, these are a lot of people that from this community. I talked to a nurse that had been a nurse for 25 years, but due to circumstances, she just checked out, and she was living on the river bottom last I knew. We need to have a compassionate approach. We need to have an approach that is not only multifaceted, but we need a plan. We can't just go in, we have our home, and if somebody just came in and raised our home and said, well, you're going to have to move, where will we go? If you don't have family, there's people with mental health issues, substance abuse issues. We have young people living down there. I had a friend, the jungle. I've been to the jungle on numerous times, and if you follow me on Facebook, I've done videos. We cannot allow them to just destroy our environment. So we've got to have a balanced approach, a multifaceted approach, but also a compassionate approach. Our services for mental health are lacking here in this city. Our services for substance abuse are lacking in this city. I've talked to young people. They're 12-year-olds out there living on the street. Why? Where are the parents? We need to find out the root cause of why they're out there, and we need to see how we can help them. The Colorado Springs Rescue Mission has a mission that is not funded at all by the city or the county or by taxpayer money. They have private donations, corporations that help run that center. We need that same thing here because we have a finite amount of taxpayer money that could go out. We cannot just keep on just throwing up against the wall and hope that something happens. Issues right now with our rescue mission. We've got to have a plan, though. We've got to have a comprehensive plan. And right now, we don't have one.
Thank you. Next question to Epi. What's your stance in light of so much distrust in government in our country? What's your stance on government transparency, and what type of policies do you think could still be implemented to make sure citizens are fully informed and engaged with county decisions?
Well, with that question, we are transparent in the government because in Pueblo County, in our meetings, we have meetings. When we have our meetings, they're on social media. A lot of people talk about transparency, so they're transparent. And could you say that again? On what? The question?
Yeah, just with the amount of distrust generally in the government in our country, how can we make sure government here stays transparent?
Well, government with us, I believe that we are transparent, and there is a lot of distrust because people will call me up and they'll tell us about the roads because we took over the roads in Pueblo West, and they say, well, usually they call and they'll chew you out. I'm not going to say what they say, but they're not very good words. But when you do go out there, they thank you for it because a lot of commissioners never showed up on the job site. I come from the infrastructure world. I show up to everything, even if they call me down and everything. So when I show up, they apologize. And like I said, it's going to take $5 million a year is what they had that ballot measure for Pueblo West. But that's how it is being transparent because a lot of people say they're going to do something in county government and they don't. They don't return phone calls. I return every phone call I get. I don't care what they call me. I return it. I work with the people. I was one of the first commissioners to show up on a flood job site, and they told me they'd never seen one. And let me tell you, the infrastructure world, if you have employees that they don't know what they're doing sometimes, it's kind of hard, but our employees do really great work. But sometimes the way they do it, it's good, but it's not good. And what I mean by that is, like, when that flood came, it washed out a culvert, and the culvert was probably from here to the other end of the building. And they didn't put a header wall or put riprap. They just did it quick, and they apologized. But when we do our work, we have to make sure we do it. But with government, I feel I've been pretty transparent with everybody, and I'm not going to mention names, but we have some that just they do the talk, but they don't walk the walk.
All right, next question for Kayla. Given the recent emphasis on drug treatment rather than incarceration, where do you stand on prosecuting drug offenses, especially when they involve public safety concerns?
So the first thing I'll say is that we very rarely see cases where the only offense is a drug offense. Our law enforcement officers are so short-staffed that they are not contacting people. They don't have the ability to right now to just contact somebody solely because they're using drugs. They generally are contacting them because they are committing a crime, and then when they're making the arrest and do the pat-down, that's when they find the drugs. So I will say that a majority of the time we are seeing a crime against the community or against somebody with drugs on top of it. Now, probation has the resources to help people that are addicted to drugs. There are programs that start within the jail. The JBBS program is an outreach program that helps any of our inmates to find jobs, to find housing, to get on medicated assisted treatment if they so wish before even getting out of the jail, if they need Vivitrol or something like that, to be able to help them to stay off of the drugs when they get out. So again, that goes back to prosecutorial discretion, looking at the crime itself that was committed, looking at the defendant, looking at their history. Because sometimes, and a lot of the time, we get a defendant that'll say, oh, I just have a drug problem. Oh, that's, I need the treatment. But then you look back at their history, and this is their 5th conviction, and they've already had the opportunity at probation. They've had the opportunity at a halfway house, and they're not taking advantage of the resources that have been offered to them time and time again. And so at that point, yes, those people just need to be locked up, and you know what? Sometimes a period of incarceration forces the sobriety on them. And hopefully that while they're incarcerated, they can also get the resources that are there available to them. They have to choose it. And I will stress that. Often we are in court and we will see the moms and grandparents, parents crying in court because their loved one is standing at the podium in handcuffs because they're getting ready to go to prison or they're facing their next consequence. Those parents and family members are working harder than the defendant at that point. Until that person is ready to make a difference, they're ready to quit using the drugs, there is nothing that any one of us or any one of their family members can do to stop it. I have seen parents put up houses to get bonds or to pay for treatment, rehab facilities for their loved one, and the loved one will go for 2-3 days and leave, and then that parent is out that money. So I will stress that is a recurring theme that we are seeing often in court. So we're not there just to prosecute first-time drug offenders. We do get them help. Like I said, we have the LEAD program, which is law enforcement assisted diversion. So if it is a first-time drug offender or they only have a drug offense, not with a shoplifting or a burglary or something like that, they can go through that program and receive pre-filing help or assistance with that, and that gets them into treatment as well. So I would say that from what we're generally seeing, I am for prosecuting even if it's with a drug crime, because sometimes that's the only way to get those people help is through the resources that we have.
All right, thank you. Next question is going to Paula. Paula, what specific measures would you support, or what steps would you take to help local businesses and to help grow the business community in Pueblo County?
Well, I think all of these issues that we're talking about affect a business climate. I think until we can get our community to be a better place and a safer place for business to grow and develop. You know, there's a saying that a safe community is like a tax credit for small business. And so I really believe that we've got to get our house in order. All of the things that you all have talked about is what I hear a lot. And you can't grow business in the community when people don't feel safe in the community. They don't know what schools are safe for their kids. And we have a beautiful community. I mean, it's idyllic in many, many ways, but the crime situation really discourages people from investment. When you try to locate a business in our downtown corridor and you have to deal with broken windows and your insurance won't cover it and you have to keep paying for that over and over, what's the incentive? So we have to work really hard as a local county government with our city government, with our mayor, our city council to really decide what is our position going to be. Are we going to grow Pueblo through public safety? Are we going to have one voice and one message about that? And number two, are we willing to talk to our legislators and say, look what you've done. Denver, it might be fine for you in downtown Denver, but look what you've done to the rest of the state, and look what you've done to Pueblo, and we don't like it, and we're going to figure out a way to deal with it. Now, when it comes to mental illness and when it comes to drug addiction, I'm not one of those people to stand alongside and be codependent with drug users. That never helps them. To allow them to use drugs, live on the streets, and commit petty crime only burdens our business community. And I don't believe that's the best solution. What we need are nonprofit organizations that will come alongside with the mission to get them help and treatment and off the street, and also mental help for those that are, you know, we used to have a state hospital. We need to relook at that whole option for people. They're on our streets. They're not getting the help they need. We as a community really need to start talking about how to transition us back to a society that protects you, the taxpayer, you, the citizen, and then helps those that have those needs so that we can all be a functioning society. And that's the only way I can see us doing that.
All right, thank you. Epi, and you'll have one more after this.
Okay. Well, and Paul is right. It has to do with legislation. We have Petco here. They could bring jobs. They bring jobs here to Pueblo. But people look at our community. They look at our schools. They look at the crime, and they look at our electric rates. And we have, like, that's why I said we have to pay attention to the people we send up north, because when they do come here, they do give them tax credits so they can bring their business here, and then they get up and they leave after so many years. But it has to do with the crime legislation and our electric rates. Economic development, this is a beautiful town. I guarantee you people, it's going to start taking off, but we really have to pay attention to that. And that's part of economic development. People's going to come here. That has to do with the crime in the schools and just paying attention to everything that we do.
All right, Stephen?
I ran for the legislature in 2008. It was fairly balanced back then, but right now, if you look at our state senators, our state house reps, there is one party that's ruling. They rule, and they have no concern about us. Denver, they have concern about Denver, but we've become collateral damage to these policies that have become criminal friendly. Businesses have become collateral damage. We need to, our local representatives, our mayor, on down to commissioners and our DA, and we need to stand as a unified body. And right now we don't have that. I've had the ability to collaborate and work with other leaders in my work on different boards and things of that nature. Because Denver, they don't care about us. It's obvious. Our governor, he wants the criminals to run free, and we can't stand for that. And as the next county commissioner, I will not stand for it. I've talked to so many businessmen in this city. They closed their restaurants at 2 o'clock. And I've talked to someone recently, and they said because of all the homeless people, because it's dangerous, and because customers won't go out there to eat. They're afraid to. And we cannot. You look at our senior citizens' homes, they're all built by parks. And I've talked to these senior citizens. They won't go outside to the park. And that's a shame, because that's why they were built right there, so they could come out and enjoy the afternoon. And we've got to take this back, friends.
All right, and I'm actually going to throw you a question, Steve. What's the biggest problem facing Pueblo that you think is not being adequately addressed right now in the county?
It would have to go back to crime and homelessness. And we need leaders. leaders that are, not going to just go with the flow, because that's what's happened throughout the years. I mean, I've been here. When I ran for legislature in 2008, I ran because I seen things here in Pueblo. Like I said, I've seen challenges and opportunities, and I seen how things were going, and it bothered me. It bothered me. And now we're at the position we are now. Out of control crime, homelessness. I mean, we could go downtown, and I guarantee there's people all over the place. And we need to address that with multifaceted approaches. We need police on the streets. So how do we do that? We go through the budget. We contact our federal government, our congressman. We need help here in Pueblo. If our mayor, if our governor isn't going to do it, well, then we have to take the bull by the horns. And it's like Kayla said. I talked to your husband. We only got 2 people on the gang unit, and we got 11 and 12-year-olds out here committing crimes. We, as a community, like back in the early 80s when the mill shut down or was shutting down, we came together. We had to help our police. We have to help our commissioners, our mayor. We had to take an active role. And I know I've talked to Councilman Joe Latino, and he has ideas that where we can, do our community policing. It might be a little dangerous. We need training, but we have to take responsibility and not just let things total chaos. That's not acceptable for anyone or our families.
All right, go for it.
He mentioned the budget, and really it has nothing to do with the budgets. The budgets are there for the city and the county. It has to do with the legislation. Law enforcement can't become law enforcement because of the laws they've passed. They're afraid to become law enforcement, and I've seen that. We're short in the city like 30 police officers on patrol, and that, like I said, everything comes down to legislation. What we have to do. There is budgets there for the city, for the county, but everybody always blames it on PD. They blame it on SO. They blame it on the DA. No, it's legislation. And we have to keep pounding that and make sure that we watch who we send up north.
All right, I'm actually going to throw the question to you now, Epi. How would you address, this is the homeless topic that I asked about earlier, how would you address the challenge of homelessness in a way that is balancing compassion with accountability?
Well, I went down there with the mayor to help the mayor clean out the bottom of the river. I was down there for about 4 or 5 hours. When I worked for the DA's office, I used to go down there and have to look for victims and the criminals, and I'll tell you what, doing it with compassion now, there's a lot of mental illness out there, and we need money for mental illness. And what I mean by that is like legislation, it goes to legislation again. These people, they won't let them take a medicine. Let's say, if it was my child and I want him to take the medicine, they can't unless he wants to take it. But if you get a court order and they take the medicine, they come out good. And let me tell you, I have a son that has a mental illness, and that's how I know it. I had to fight to make it happen. And let me tell you, I really got it, and I got it taken care of, got it under control. He takes his medicine. He's doing great, but it comes down to legislation. And these people really do need help down there. The mental illness. I have friends down there that are hooked on drugs that I used to work with in CFNI, and I tell you, it breaks my heart to see that. And just to fix a problem, it's going to come down to legislation. And the governor and them for passing laws that we can help these people come out from the river bottom or get their illness under control. I just never seen it like this, and it's hard to take care of these people if we ain't got the budget to do it. Even the homelesses that are coming here from everywhere, they say they're sending them from Springs and Denver. We don't have the resources to take care of everybody here. And we have to do something, because this isn't California. That's kind of what the governor's trying to make this look like California, and we have to put a stop to it.
All right, thank you. We'll go to Paula next. Paula, as a county commissioner, what's your stance on DEI as it relates to hiring for the county?
Well, having spent close to 30 years in higher ed, I know what DEI stands for. What I've seen it do in my career in higher ed, though, is create more division. I know it's meant to provide the atmosphere where everybody feels included and accepted and loved and valued. And what I saw it do in the time that I was at the community college was really create an atmosphere where people didn't feel that amongst each other. It creates division. So my ideas really don't center around a DEI narrative. It really centers around valuing people for who they are and what they contribute as a human being. I really think that we have not done a very good job in our culture today. Focusing on DEI is really not the issue. The focus really needs to be on how every human life has purpose, value, and quality to contribute. And that also means that sometimes we don't always agree, and that's okay too. There's a quote that I love from Ronald Reagan. He says, "We can agree 80% of the time, and that makes you my friend and ally, not my 20% enemy." And what I found with DEI is if you don't agree on every little thing, you are an enemy. You are pointed out. You are discouraged from the conversation. You are excluded. And I will just simply point to the fact of how in my campaign for just this office as a citizen, how I've been treated for just being a person of faith. DEI is not available to you if you're a Christian. I don't know if you've noticed that, Kayla. Seems like if you're a person of faith, you're not allowed to be at the table. And that's the first failure of DEI I'd point out to you. As a county commissioner, that's not my approach. I want our county employees to all feel valued and welcomed and to have a seat at the table. And that's the job of a county commissioner, is to ensure that those resources are there to serve everybody in the community, everybody, even the people that don't agree with me. Even the employees that don't agree with me, we can all have a seat at the table and work together. DEI is not the way to do that, in my opinion. I've seen too much division, and so for me, the approach is really, how do we value each other for who we are and get the work done for you, the taxpayer? That's my approach.
All right, and actually, along those lines, on social media, we did have a comment recently tonight about asking why a giant religious center is holding a political forum. Because that's, I don't know if that's not allowed now, or I should clarify, all candidates were invited. All of the other candidates for these positions were invited to join us tonight. But we have people right now questioning, why are you doing anything at all?
Why don't you read your Constitution and understand American history? Then you won't be so perplexed by it. I'm sorry, Quinn, but that really upsets me. Before my life in higher ed, I was a student of political science. I worked for a congressman and a senator, and this was never a question that I ever had to deal with. People of faith were never told, sit down and shut up. And this is new to our culture in the last 20 years. And what I would say to those of you that do not like people of faith being engaged, please understand the First Amendment of our country protects every person at every level, whether you have faith or no faith. You all get to participate. And for anyone that says that we are dangerous, I would say those of you saying we should not be involved, you're really the extreme ones and the dangerous ones. And I don't say that lightly, but I'm really tired of hearing that rhetoric and no one challenges it, so I'll challenge it tonight. What we're doing is our First Amendment right, and we have a right to exercise it. So thank you for hosting this forum.
Yeah,
Thank
you for being here.
Okay.
And why do we have working families? It's called, what's it called?
What's that?
Working,
Pueblo working families?
yeah, Pueblo working families. Well, they can sure bust our chops.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And beat us up and call us extremists and everything. You know, but DEI, you know, we have to listen to them. So we have to put a stop to that. I mean, when the stuff that they were saying about Miss McFeeters down there on Union Avenue, that was not good. And now they're coming after me. And they're coming after Kayla. And
You're
they're
all
coming
extreme.
Yeah, they're coming after Stephen. I mean, we have to put a stop to that. These people, it's all about them. You know what I mean? They talk about their having godly and values. Well, then show it. You know, step into the plate and show it.
Yeah, go for it.
And I have to say, you walk around the street and you see a lot of crazy stuff, but taking a worldview from the Bible teaches us to have values, teaches me that I shouldn't go out and steal, I shouldn't commit murder, I shouldn't kill babies. And if that is wrong in this country now, we have truly twisted right to being wrong and wrong to being right. And we need leaders that will stand. And I refuse. I've had even some people in the Republican Party say, you talk about God too much. Well, I pray every day for God's guidance because I want to be a godly man. I want to be someone that has values and teaches my children to have respect for elderly folks, to try to get along with be a peacemaker, not someone that's going to be divisive and fight against anything that teaches you to be right and to follow after biblical principles.
All right, thank you guys. I'm going to throw a question to Kayla now. You've worked in the DA's office for many years. You've seen how things run. What are the major changes that you would like to make if elected DA?
One of my very first things would be to be more transparent with our community. Right now, the media writes the narrative for our office. So you don't ever see, I shouldn't say ever, very rarely see any press releases about things coming from the DA's office. You don't hear about any of the good work that we are doing. All you hear about is when the media wants to blow up a plea agreement or something that happened at a jury trial, or, you know, and people on Facebook, the comments that we get, it's always, oh, the DA's office. So really, I would like to expand our communication, education, transparency to the community. Because if people knew that it's not the DA's office that chooses the sentence for somebody, we can to a degree with a plea agreement. But when you have an open sentence to a judge or after a jury trial conviction, it's the judge that comes up with the sentence. And they're confined within what our statutes allow them for sentencing. But people are always coming after the DA's office. I feel like if there is communication and education about what's really happening, the laws that we're working with, that I think that could really help educate our community and have a better relationship between our community members and the DA's office. So that's one of my number ones. Additionally, we have to do better at recruiting. I mentioned earlier that we are really short within the office, and when I say that, we have 18 district attorneys right now, and there are only 14 of us that are in court. That means for entire Pueblo County, including Rye, Colorado City, Avondale, taking on all of the cases from State Patrol, the Pueblo Police Department, the Sheriff Department, the Wildlife, those are all landing on the backs of 18 DAs and only 14 of us in court. And we have 3 more that are leaving within the next 2 months. So we absolutely have to get attorneys to our office. So recruitment and then retention is huge because, you know, you can get the attorneys in and then they realize how much work it is and how much that they're really taking on their shoulders. And if you do nothing to reward for that, if you do nothing through pay, if you do nothing through bonuses, then why are they going to stay? Then it turns into a training ground here in Pueblo for them to go north to Springs, Denver, the new judicial district that's being created this year, the 23rd Judicial District up north. So recruitment and retention is absolutely huge, and that has to be done better from our office.
All right, thank you. Next question to Steve. Going to the affordable housing topic, with rising housing costs across Colorado, what specific steps would you take to ensure affordable housing options in Pueblo?
I served on the Housing Commission here, and I was glad that we've had the opportunity to have this growth in the west side what's taking place now. We have things going up there, a community of nice homes over there by the college. We need to continue to increase our housing supply. We need to streamline the permitting process, and we need to look at policies coming from Denver. I know they get a lot of, we knock them a lot, but it's true. The policies coming down affect the whole state, and they're affecting Pueblo. We have a lot of underused or lack of use buildings that are just sitting out there. And so I would like to see us figure out a way where we can use those buildings. It makes no difference if we build $1 million home and nobody can afford it because we don't have no jobs. So it is a multifaceted issue. The crime, the jobs that are not coming here. I was just talking to someone from Colorado Springs that lived here. Now they had to move to Springs because the jobs in the field that they work in, it's in Springs and not here. So policy, increasing the houses that are available, working on the crime, because when we do all this together, businesses, it'll attract businesses, which they will hire people with good jobs, and they will make good money to afford these homes. But we cannot build a Section 8 housing development next to $1 million homes. So we have to use strategic planning to accomplish this, to work on this homeless issue.
All right, thank you. Next question. Epi, what accomplishments over the last 4 years would you highlight as reasons for voting for you?
That I've done?
Yes.
Okay, well, when I first got in office, when I got in office, we worked to make sure we got the jail. The old jail is like 44 years old. We got a $140 million jail. We're building $40 million Medal Varner Boulevard. There's going to be economic development going on. That's a new thoroughway into Pueblo West. And it's going to be a safety factor because we have Highway 50 and a new entrance right here. It's going to be a safety factor. It's going to be a big deal for Pueblo. Also, we did all the water infrastructure when I got in. We spent over $13 million for Boone, Avondale, Colorado City, and Beulah. Because without water, a community is not a community. So that's the economic development that we created, good paying jobs. We have a union contractor out there. There's about 130 employees out there. We've done good with that. We did the Italian lateral. And same thing with the new codes that Stephen was just talking about. We just did a resolution last week. They came and presented to us. They got everybody in the community. They got contractors, developers, and everybody. They put them together. And they put this plan together to see how to streamline development going on here in Pueblo. And what I mean by that, so then the question was, so with all this new development, the streamlining it, can we amend it because this is going to be something new for Pueblo? So if it's not working, then we're going to amend it and make it happen. And that's what we did. When I first got in, that's what I did. Pueblo Regional, I'm a Pueblo Regional. Zach is, what's that called? Yeah, Pueblo means business. Zach's Pueblo means business. And let me tell you, that's going good right now. But with all the regional and everything, changing the codes, that's helping everybody move forward here in Pueblo. But that's a bunch of the things that we have done. And I want to continue doing that and make sure we get that finished out here, the new jail in Medal Varner Boulevard, because that's a big deal here for Pueblo. Otherwise, we'd have had the federal government come in and telling us that we had to build a jail, and we didn't. Now, if we'd have done it before I got in office, we'd have probably saved $50 million, because when COVID hit, the prices went up drastically, and I'm talking about everything, and we have to put a stop to that.
All right, and our next question will go to Stephen. This is the transparency question. What's your stance on government transparency, and what policies would you implement to ensure Pueblo citizens are fully informed and engaged with county decisions?
I like that the commissioners are on video because it lets us know where they stand on issues, and it lets us know where the departments are spending their money and things of this nature. I think there could be more transparency as far as, we have at 9 o'clock in the morning, people are at work, and I watch all the videos and everything. But I know, like the city council meetings, a lot of times when controversial issues come up that people want to attend in person. So I would look at how we can make that possible, where if you want to come in and address an issue, where you could come and do it personally instead of doing it online. And then it just gets all discombobulated, and people, we don't know what you're thinking. So we need to find a way to make it to where people can attend, like city council, they have theirs in the evening, and there's issues where everybody shows up. And there are other issues where people they're not too concerned. So policy-wise, I would just see how we can make it more accessible to you to do these things in person. Because there's something, like my mom can yell at me over the phone, but if she does it in person, it's a whole different ball game. And I listen I listen. We listen. And that's, that's an analogy that people can talk to you over the internet, but when it's in person, you're able to understand where they're coming from. The internet has done a lot of great things, but it's also created the ability for people to just say whatever they say without any accountability. Even political leaders in these races now, people can just spout off, and it's just like we need to have civility and professionalism back in our government.
Thank you. And man, the number of comments on Facebook has just been astounding as it relates to the religious freedom topic and the event. So I would just like to say, if anybody on Facebook or YouTube would like to go beyond just hounding people's videos online and do a public debate, I would be happy to do that on the topic of separation of church and state or any other topic related to us being allowed to have this forum. I just want it to be public and able to be live streamed. That's my only request. So feel free to contact me, because I think that's a good discussion. I think community would be way more healthy if we did a lot of public debates on these topics so people could actually hear the different perspectives. But back to the candidates. Kayla, what's your approach to partnering with local law enforcement to maintain peace and safety?
So the DA's office works closely with law enforcement just in general by its role. A case comes to the DA's office after it's investigated by law enforcement. So it's not something that we just pick up. And I think that that's part of some confusion that I've learned a lot from going around to different groups and talking to, just the not understanding of how a case even gets to us to begin with. So working with law enforcement, we already have a DA on call 24/7. So that if law enforcement has a question about a case or a question about an issue that they're dealing with on the streets, they have the ability to reach a DA to get that question answered 24/7. We rotate throughout our office on who carries that call for a week at a time, or that phone, I'm sorry, for a week at a time. So that is huge. We have to work together, because the investigation of the case and how good that is then ultimately makes the outcome of the prosecution. So if we have a case that isn't fully investigated, doesn't have enough evidence, if it doesn't have the interviews of the witnesses that we need, then when the case comes to our office, we can't really do much with it. So in order for us to work together to build a case from the ground up, that's the best way that we get a successful prosecution. So I've already built good working relationships with the officers and the deputies, given that I've been there for the last 12 years. I've prosecuted hundreds of cases. I mean, at any given time, like right now, my caseload is roughly 150 cases just by myself. And that's what every one of our DAs is carrying. I indicated earlier I'm the chief trial deputy, but I'm in the courtroom working alongside my deputies, my deputy DAs. So I carry a caseload as high as them and really higher, because I'm also carrying a whole caseload of murders, because there's only a handful of us that take on the murder cases, and then we bring on some of the younger DAs to train them on those as well. But working with the patrol deputies, with the detectives, once they get the cases, to perfect the case or to perfect it the best we can in order to have a successful prosecution is key. And that's something that I've already been doing and will continue to do, because I've already started those relationships. And I think that if you talk to a majority of the officers that I've dealt with, you would see that I have a good reputation with law enforcement. The Pueblo Police Union did endorse me. The Sheriff Union decided to stay out of endorsing either one of the DAs. But I can tell you, talking to the deputies that are either in the courthouse or the ones on the cases, I do have their support, because they've seen my work in the courtroom, and they've been able to call me at any given hour when I'm on call and get the responses that they need in order for them to do their jobs.
All right.
And one thing as a county commissioner, we work with the district attorney, we work with the sheriff's department, we give them all the tools and everything. We work good with them and give them all the resources that they need to make things happen in the courtroom. Like I said, when I first got in, I pushed for a 10% raise. That was the biggest raise in county history. People thought I was crazy. I had to I had the other commissioner's support. We made that happen. The next year was 5, and then 3, 18% to retain people. But it is hard to retain people, and we do work good with the DA's office and the SO to make sure they have all the tools and everything they need.
All right, and I'm going to actually just have you keep going here into your actual question, and so I'll just make that part of your question. How do the commissioners, or what can commissioners do to support law enforcement?
Well, like I just mentioned, that's what we do. The resources and the tools they need, that's what I ran on, was public safety. Public safety is number one in our community. If people ain't safe, we're not going to make things happen, and believe me, it's not going to happen. And that's why I said it goes down to legislation. We have to watch the legislatures we send up north. But we do work really good with the DA's office and the SO. And like I said, we give them all the tools and everything they need. Every time they called us, we were on board. So that's exactly what we do.
Okay. All right. And now Paula is actually the last question, and then we'll have you guys give closing statements. Man, I had to debate which one I was going to ask. I'm actually, keep it lively? Is that what you said? No, this is one that came up earlier, but I want to throw it to you as well. There's a lot of talk as it relates to gun control. Can you do anything as a county commissioner? And if so, what could you do to help ease the mind of many people who sent me questions as it in regards to gun control as being one of their main concerns?
Again, it's a statutory job. County commissioners must follow state law, so whatever state laws are on the books about gun control are the laws that I must follow, but I am a gun owner. I enjoy shooting, and I like to go and hone that skill, because in the end, while I love law enforcement, the reality is I have to know how to protect myself. So gun rights, to me, that's the Second Amendment, is a very important right that I will not abridge as a county commissioner. Again, I have to stand by the laws that are there, and this is why when we have these forums, it's very important, and I think we put a lot of pressure on every candidate. What are you going to do for me? That's what the citizen's asking. What I'm asking you as a citizen is, what are you going to do to make sure you elect the right people to enforce the laws that you want to see done? Because while we can get elected, we're limited on some of the things we can do on your behalf. So it's a team effort. Government is here to represent you, so it's really important in this kind of a forum for you to be educated about the kind of people running and what they value and what they support and what they believe in. And while we can do certain things at the county level, as a statutory role, county commissioners can only do what the law allows them to do to protect you as a citizen. But as Epi said, public safety is the #1 function of government. That's why you pay taxes. Public safety is the #1 thing we should be doing for you as a citizen, so you don't have to worry about using your weapon. But in lieu of that, with a sheriff's department that's spread over a county that's so huge, the idea that you can wait 20 minutes for a deputy to show up if you live in Avondale or in Rye or Beulah, you're going to have to protect yourself. So for me, your Second Amendment freedoms are something that I'm going to protect, because I know for my personal safety, when my husband's gone on a trip, I better know how to use my firearm, because I don't know what's out on the other side of that door. And I think that's a basic thing that you as citizens have rights to. And I know some people don't like that idea, but for me, that's a 100% American value, for you to own a firearm to protect yourself. So yes, that's where I stand on that one.
Cool. Thank you. So we're going to do closing statements, 1 minute. Why should people vote for you? We're going to do the reverse order this time. And so we're going to go down to Steve and do closing statements. You got that 1 minute on the clock. Whenever you're ready, sir.
I am a proud, lifelong resident of Pueblo and a dedicated advocate for the well-being and progress of our community. With deep roots in this community, I've spent decades working to improve the lives of local residents through decades of ministry and serving on numerous governmental boards. These roles have honed my skills of leadership, collaboration, and problem solving, which are essential for effective public service. These experiences have provided me with a deep understanding of the issues that matter most to Puebloans, from economic development and job creation to public safety and affordable housing. Having grown up in the community, I've seen firsthand the challenges and opportunities we as a community face. Our community desires someone who will listen and bring their voices to the table. I am committed to contributing to the greater good of our community, giving you a voice. Martin Luther King Jr. said it best when he said, history will have to record that the greatest tragedy of this period of social transition was not the clamoring of the bad people, but the appalling silence of the good people. I am Stephen Rodriguez, Republican candidate for Pueblo County Commissioner, District 1, and I am committed to serving you with integrity, accountability, and transparency.
Thank you.
My name is Epi Grego, and I'm running for my second term here in Pueblo. I'm born and raised here, and transparency is a big deal in our community. But when I ran for office, I talked about public safety, I talked about infrastructure, and everything that I mentioned I was going to do, I've done. And I'd really like to get your support, and just thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
When you consider who you're going to elect for your district attorney, you're going to want experience, leadership, and commitment. And I have all of those. I've been at the job for 12 years, and I've worked my way up prosecuting every type of case that comes through our office, all the way to first-degree murder. I'm in the middle of a murder trial right now. I'll be doing closing arguments tomorrow morning. I am a working mom. I'm a working DA. And that is what is vastly different between me and my opponent. The commitment, experience, and leadership when it comes to being a prosecutor. He may have experiences in different type of government, but I have been at the DA's office and I've stuck it out even when things got hard, even though I'm carrying over 150 cases at a time. My heart is in prosecution because I think that's where we can make a difference. When you need an electrician, you don't call a plumber, right? So when you're electing your DA, you want a prosecutor. And I'm a tough on crime prosecutor, and I'm the right person for this position. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Pueblo County deserves a commissioner that works for the needs of Pueblo, not the desires of Denver. And I think when you compare me to my opponent, you're going to find out that her focus in running for this office is to really continue her legislative work as a county commissioner in a job that really is not legislative at all. My focus and effort in this job is to represent you, the voters of Pueblo County. I bring to the table years of experience with budget and finance, grants management, and a strong understanding of what government should do for its citizens and what government is mandated to do for its citizens. And so I bring to the table lots of experience beyond being in state government. I bring experience as being a mom, a wife, a giver in my community, and also someone who really believes strongly that you, as the voters of Pueblo County, deserve a better Pueblo County, and that's what I will do if you would elect me. Thank you so much for your consideration. I'm Paula McFeeters. Thank you.
All right, and thank you so much for being here. I hope this was helpful for you. If you haven't voted yet, obviously get out and vote. And if you have voted or if you're going to go vote soon, tell your friends and family that they should vote as well. This is a very important election, and so I hope everybody takes this very seriously. So thank you for being here this evening. The candidates, I'm sure, will come down if you have any specific